I just successfully won a copyright battle with some people. And this will be valuable for everybody to know, like, how the system works. Not just YouTubers who are smaller and dealing with this situation themselves. That it'll certainly be valuable for them, because I just went through this whole copyright system. But it'll be valuable for all of, everybody, fans and everything, to understand how this works generally, so you understand how you can support creators who are dealing with false copyright claims. So I decided to cover God's Not Dead 1 and 2, right? These are commercially available movies. They're full-blown movies that aired in theaters and everything, but they're a master class in propaganda. They teach you propaganda flawlessly. It is pure, unadulterated propaganda from beginning to end. And that's what I do on my channel, okay? I go through, propaganda videos, and I point it out, and I talk about the techniques, poisoning the well and the bandwagon effect and things like that. Well, that's what I did with God's Not Dead 1 and 2. I do a whole live stream, spend hours and hours, say 3-4 hours, sitting here talking to my fans while we watch a movie together, and I break it down and talk about exactly how this was being used, in a propagandistic way. And then I split the live stream up into 1-hour sections that are independent of each other and can be watched. You can jump in anywhere. You don't have to have context for the others, right? Well, that's what I did with God's Not Dead 1 and 2. I had 10 different parts. I get a copyright claim from Lionsgate. That's how this all started. Lionsgate is apparently, I'm coming to find out, the company that prints the DVDs and puts them in Walmarts. And they make the deals with the movie theaters and stuff. They're like the production company that sends the stuff out, right? And they owned like a piece of this movie. So they had a right to the claim to both of these movies. And then there's Dorado. Now, Dorado is apparently the company that actually owns the intellectual property that is God's Not Dead 1 and 2, from my understanding. Quick correction, from what I can tell, Dorado is actually the company that the intellectual property ownership was passed out to so that they have the right to copyright claim on YouTube. So they're like the people that go around on YouTube copyright claiming for the original company. One Media IP apparently acquired the publishing and songwriter rights to God's Not Dead. I'm not really sure exactly who created it or what company, but either way, Dorado is the one that has the right to file copyright claims, at the very least. So I get into this whole thing with Lionsgate, and I've come to find that YouTube follows the exact procedure outlined in law. YouTube's copyright takedown system is not YouTube's copyright takedown system. It's the law's copyright takedown system. So YouTube has a system that detects when copyrighted material was used, called Content ID, and it gives the copyright owner the opportunity to do whatever they want to do with it. Make all of the money from it, take all of the money that it's made, or take the video down completely and refuse to let it be shown, or whatever. You can do whatever with it because it's your intellectual property. Well, a lot of people choose to allow the video to stay up, but take all of the earnings from it. I wasn't going to stand for that. You know what? I don't want a propaganda company making money off of my fans. So I'm not going to stand for it. So Lionsgate, they're not actually a propaganda company. They've produced Twilight, and they've produced like Hellboy and a bunch of others. Like I said, they just send the money out to they just send the DVDs and stuff out to the people that they're supposed to go to, Walmarts and things like that. I wrote up basically a 14, 15-page paper on fair use and why what I did was covered under fair use. It is the definition of fair use. And I'm sure you've probably heard a lot of fair use stuff happening in the news recently, like H3H3 got in a fair use battle. Sargon of Akkad got in a fair use battle, so on and so forth, right? But fair use has existed since the 1800s. This is a very old doctrine, okay? This is not something that just came into being and is brand new. And according to even cases back in the 1800s, cases that were decided all the way back then, what I did fell within fair use. Okay, so basically this 14-page paper that I wrote, that I sent to to Lionsgate, because they put up a takedown notice. They decided if they're not going to get the money from the video, which by the way they did get the money, but if they're not going to get future earnings, then they're not going to allow the video to stay up. So I sent a counter notification. Here's how the system works. Again, this is a system built into YouTube, but YouTube built it to the specifications of the law, the exact specifications. And YouTube is not involved in any way. YouTube detects that copyright material was used, gives the copyright owner the opportunity to claim that content, right? So in my case, Lionsgate said, yes, this is mine. Yes, I want the money from it. Or yes, I want them to not be able to play it or whatever. In their case, they wanted the money. That doesn't include super chats, by the way. Any super chats made during live streams go to me no matter what. It's just like ad revenue, basically. So I can dispute their claim on the copyright work based on a number of exceptions. When I disputed this, I was basically signing a legal document under penalty of perjury. That's what it said. Under penalty of perjury, you're claiming that you have reviewed the video in good faith and have determined that it does fall within fair use. That's what I said. Now the dispute goes back to Lionsgate, and Lionsgate has to either deny or accept the dispute. So it goes to Lionsgate, and Lionsgate has to say the same thing if they're going to reject my dispute. Again, YouTube's not involved in this at all. It's not YouTube that's reviewing the dispute. It's Lionsgate that reviews the dispute. So I submit a dispute. Lionsgate looks at it and says, no, I think that they violated fair use. Now, again, they sign a legally binding document that says, under penalty of perjury, I have reviewed the video in good faith and determined that it is not protected by fair use. So they canceled the dispute after agreeing to that statement, after signing that document. Then I can appeal. It's like a football, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. I can appeal that dispute. The appeal goes to Lionsgate. Again, YouTube's not in this. So the appeal goes to Lionsgate. And again, it says, under penalty of perjury, I have reviewed the video in good faith and determined that I have blah, 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 whatever. Lionsgate rejected the appeal and said I had 7 days to take the video down. And if I don't take the video down, I get a copyright strike, right? Well, the next step requires a copyright strike. I had to receive one. So I let the 7 days lapse. Copyright strike comes, and I can do what's called sending a counter notification. So I send a counter notification, and it's basically it is a legally binding document that basically says, you know what, let me pull it up, I'll read it for you. Okay, so when you send a counter notification to YouTube, this is the next step after Lionsgate or whoever has rejected all appeals. Then you send a legally binding document into YouTube, who forwards it to the company. If YouTube now YouTube's involved, if they deem this as justified, you have to give a service of process statement in it, and you have to give your name and address and email and phone number. And you have to list the video in question. And you have to say, I consent to the jurisdiction of the Federal District Court of the district in which my address is located, or if my address is outside the United States, the judicial district in which YouTube is located, and will accept service of process from the claimant. I swear under penalty of perjury that I have a good faith belief that the material was removed or disabled as a result of a mistake or misidentification of material to be removed or disabled. And then you give your justification for why this falls under fair use. And if YouTube looks at the video and the justification you gave and decides, This is totally fair use. This is ridiculous. Then YouTube passes the football back to the claimant. They just, they send the email on to the claimant, and now the claimant has to get a court order or go to the Copyright Bureau, and that costs them $5,000. So it's going to cost $5,000, and a judge now has to look at this thing, like this situation. They're going to put it in front of a judge for $5,000, who's going to look at it and decide, is this a case that Lionsgate could win, or is this a case that, Owen Morgan could win? And then the judge decides if the video should be taken down, basically. Now, is Lionsgate going to spend that $5,000? No, of course they're not. What I did was honest criticism that honestly fell within fair use, that was clearly delineated all the way back in the 1800s. What I did was perfectly legal, and there's absolutely zero chance any judge would ever look at what happened, me criticizing a piece of work through commentary, and say that this does not fall within fair use. Unless the judge wants to completely erase fair use entirely and 200 years of legal precedent and destroy the copyright system and destroy everything in it. That's not going to happen. So, of course, when I send the counter notification, Lionsgate's next step is to either put up or shut up. Go to a judge, spend the $5,000 to have them look at it, to get a legal takedown notice if the judge thinks it's the right decision, or put the video up. And you know what happened? The video went back up, just like that. I had a copyright strike, and the strike went away, and the video came back. Unfortunately, in this whole back and forth passing this football, Lionsgate ended up with the $400 or so that the video made from ads. So, and I could, they're in the wrong here. I could sue them for that $400. And I could probably sue Lionsgate for punitive damages for doing this to smaller creators when they know for a fact that they lied. Well, Dorado did the exact same thing to me. When I say they know for a fact that they lied, I know that they lied for the same reason that I know that Dorado lied. Under penalty of perjury. I sent an email to Dorado because they're doing the exact same thing as Lionsgate on a bunch of the videos. There was a pending strike. So I figure, you know what? I have access to their email address this time. I didn't last time until after the strike hit. So I'm going to send them an email. So I sent Dorado an email and I said, quote, "Your company rejected my disputes, thus committing perjury on a legal document that you reviewed it in good faith to determine that fair use did not apply. Unfortunately for you, YouTube records when and who watches a video and for how long. That information is available to me. I have evidence that you didn't just not review the video in good faith, as you said you did under penalty of perjury, but that you didn't even look at the video at all. Okay, you know how many views the video had? 0! It had 0 views. These people claimed that they reviewed the video in good faith under penalty of perjury and determined after reviewing the video that it violated fair use. That fair use wasn't a defense for this. It had 0 views. 0. That goes for Lionsgate and the intellectual property owners of God's Not Dead, Dorado. All of it. It goes for all of them. None of the videos had any views on them. None of the people claiming disputes against me or appeals or any of the other junk, none of them have looked at these in good faith and tried to determine if fair use was an actual defense to this. Not one. So I sent those screenshots to Dorado, and I said that. Apparently the screenshots didn't send, so I sent a follow-up email with the pictures, the corrected pictures. So I sent up a follow-up email. I said, wasn't sure if the evidence came through or not, so I figured I'd follow up and make sure you saw it. Note the number of views the videos have where you said, I reviewed this in good faith under penalty of perjury, and determined that fair use is not a valid defense. Oops. That's what I said. And then I sent another email and said, you have no idea how ready for this fight I am. Drop the claims or meet me in the courtroom. I honestly could sue them right now. I could sue them. I could sue Dorado, and I could sue Lionsgate. Not for any money that they took or whatever, but for punitive damages. For taking advantage of people. For lying under oath and claiming that they looked at these videos, reviewed them in good faith to determine that they were not covered under fair use when they had 0 views on them. 0. So anyways, I get a snippy email back. Understandable. I was pretty snippy myself. The person obviously doesn't understand fair use at all. Like whoever is on the other end of Dorado. Let me just read the email they sent. First of all, I would like to say that your tone is below par and you can save your threats. No, this isn't a threat. Like, I'm 100% ready to go to court. In fact, I should. And I could. I have evidence that they lied under penalty of perjury. So, it's not a threat. This is real. I could 100% do this and might still. Anyways, that's what they said. Go f*** yourself is my message to you. I will threaten you with real possible action that I will actually take and that I actually intend to maybe take. All I want. And I will have a subpar tone all I want. So go f*** yourself. I'm saying this to you guys because I don't want to say it to them. Because I just want this to be over and not be a you know. We are a YouTube partner and run our own CMS and have checked all claims, and I do not have to watch videos for it. Yes, you do. You said, under penalty of perjury, that you watched the video and determined that fair use is not a good defense or not a legitimate defense to this. Yes, you do have to watch the video. So they said YouTube shares the information automatically in the CMS. No, they share that I used the intellectual property in the CMS. That's actually what they share. They don't share if, you know, fair use is a legal defense to what I did. You have to watch the video to determine that. And then they said, and there it is also shown to me how high the percentage of my reference is in your videos. Yeah, guess what? My entire video is about your stupid intellectual property. That doesn't change anything. I'm allowed to talk about your stupid all I want. It's perfectly legal for me to talk about the entire thing. Like, literally all of it. So I don't know what he thinks he's talking about here. Like, this guy obviously has no idea what he's talking about. And he's like laying this stuff like he thinks it's some kind of defense. Not that it matters. He dropped the claims. So he must realize that I'm correct. He must. Or he wouldn't have dropped the claims, right? He just decided to tell me his dumb interpretation of fair use that was completely incorrect when dropping the claims because he realized that I was right all along. I mean, that's the only thing I can figure with this. Is that what you're doing here? Go ahead. Tell me more about how little you know about fair use. So anyways, he says it shows that I used a high percentage. Yeah, dumb. I used the whole video. Of course, it showed a high percentage. That doesn't change anything. And since more material than is intended for fair use is included... More material than is intended for fair use? What? What court case did you get that from? That's not in any court case. I looked through every court case on fair use that I could find. All the way back to the 1800s, the mid-1800s. I didn't see a word about that. So, I don't know where you're pulling that from, but it's certainly not your head. I'm going to guess your head. Anyways, they say the material is intended for fair use is included in the video. Unfortunately, I have to reactivate the claim. Okay, well, he didn't reactivate the claim, and I don't think that that's possible to reactivate after deactivating. I could be wrong. After that, you have already threatened via YouTube and nothing changed in the video. The include content over 50% and the regulation for fair use does not apply. I can talk about as much of your intellectual property as I want. It doesn't matter if it's over 50% of your intellectual property. What does that have to do with anything? This guy has no clue how fair use works. Like, not one idea about it. Has he ever talked to a lawyer? Has he ever even opened Google and typed fair use before? He obviously has no clue how this works. Not one clue. So anyways, he says, nevertheless, I have now watched all 6 videos again. These 3 have already been active again when you sent me the links. It sent me the links to the videos. By this video, this use is 9% and 8%, and I released the claims too. I don't give a shit what percent of your stupid video I watched. I'm allowed to watch the entire thing, and I did. That doesn't have any bearing on fair use. Did I watch your video for the use of criticism, commentary, or parody? Yes. Okay, I'm getting a message from somebody. He probably got that from a 2-second Google search and found that most fair use cases deal with very small percentages, but obviously didn't look further and found the cases regarding YouTube content creators. Right. That was my assumption too. I have no idea where he got that, but my guess is he did the most cursory basic search after having already signed legal documents under penalty of perjury. Genius. So anyways, he says, actually, we should take people like you to court and flatten them so badly that they just shut up for the rest of their time on this world. But let me tell you something. Someone like you's not worth it. So I will also drop the last claim and take back the deactivation. But all info I got from you, now inclusive email address, I will report at my next meeting with YouTube. Let's see what YouTube thinks of your behavior. Mitt something Grubin. Best regards, Thornton Hest. Or Thornton Hest, Dorado, I guess. They are somehow like a third-party affiliated something or other media company. Like I give a shit. Or like YouTube gives a shit. What I say to some third party who is threatening me with false claims. Please, take me to court. You know what would happen? They can't take me to court. They can go to a judge and pay $5,000 to have the judge look at the case and determine if my video should stay down or not. And the judge would determine, now, this falls into fair use. It falls into commentary, the commentary subsection of criticism, commentary, or parody, right? Or I'm sorry, news reporting is the other one. And there's a whole big list of things that fair use covers, and commentary is one of them. So, go ahead. Try to take me to court. I mean, he had his opportunity. His opportunity was like literally right before he sent this email. I was going to receive a copyright strike and then send a counter notification, at which point he was going to be forced to either go to court and get a court order from a judge to take my video down because it violates his intellectual property, or put the video back up. He had his opportunity to take me to court. It was on its way, and he didn't take it. You know who can go to court, though? I can actually take him to court. I can sue the shit out of him for punitive damages because he lied under penalty of perjury, claimed that he reviewed the video in a good faith effort and determined that it was not covered under fair use when he didn't look at it at all. I can punish him for that with punitive damages. That's what I could do if I chose to. And I might. I might do that with Lionsgate. I might do that with the shittiest one. Who was the shittiest to me? You know what? I was shit to everybody all the way down the line. Because they took advantage of the situation. They do this to small creators and take $400 here, $200 there, hell, $8,000 there from small creators that need that money for rent. They take that money, these giant corporations, from little guys that need it. So yeah, I was shit to every single one of them, all the way down the line. Doesn't change the fact that I was correct in this case, and I have a legal right to sue the shit out of these companies for every penny that I can get out of them, if I chose. But I would have to hire a lawyer. That would cost like $50,000. Could I crowdfund? Yes. Do I want to? That's a big thing. I don't know. I'm not so sure. So anyways, after that little angry email he sent me, he released the claims. Instead of sending an aggressive, I will say, an aggressive response email back to him, as my wife suggested, I'm going to just leave it. Let him have it. Let him take his parting shot. I'll let him have his parting shot. Okay. You said you should Crush little guys like me in court. Go ahead. All right. Punch me in the face. I'll let you have it. As long as you release the claims. And he did. So that's all I really care about. So anyways, now you should have an understanding of how the process really works. At the end of the line, here's the bottom line with it, okay? For any content creators worried about copyright and what happens if someone's coming after you or whatever, are you sure that what you did is within fair use? Criticism, news reporting, parody, or commentary, or whatever. There's a whole list. If you're sure that what you did is within fair use, fight it to the bitter end. Follow it all the way through. Go through the dispute. When they reject that, go through the appeal. When they reject that, email a counter notification. Just Google counter notification YouTube. That's all you have to do, and it'll explain it. Email the counter notification to YouTube, to copyright@youtube.com, I think is the email address, with a specific binding thing, your name and address and everything, and your justification for why this is fair use. And then from that moment on, it's on the claimant to prove that you violated their intellectual property, and fair use is not a defense for you. It's affirmative, which means they have to prove that you are wrong. They have to put the money up. They have to put up the $5,000 to get a court order to keep your video down. And you know what happens if they choose to do that? Hell, worst case, a judge, gets paid $5,000 to look at this case. Say Teal Swan or Lionsgate or whatever gives them $5,000 to look at the case. And the judge says, you're right. They did violate your intellectual property, and fair use is not a defense. You know what happens then? The video gets taken down, you get a copyright strike, and you move on with your life. 90 days later, the copyright strike falls off. That's what happens. This system is built to give everybody along the line anxiety and act as a stopgap for people who might be abusing the system, right? Try to scare the shit out of them, make them realize, like, oh my God, I'm actually signing legal documents here. But if you believe that you are in the right, if you are in the right, follow it to its end. Don't let people take advantage of this system. Lionsgate buckled under the weight of my counter notifications and everything. Dorado buckled. Everybody that comes up against me buckles. You know why? Because I'm in the legal right. Because I can do this. I'm perfectly allowed to review their movies to my heart's content. And there's nothing that they can do to stop me. Sure, I'll get a copyright strike in the interim. You don't want to get 3 of those at the same time. So make sure if you have 3 videos up, you're only doing 1 or 2 appeals at a time, to make sure that, they drop off after 10 days or whatever. But that's my advice to you. If you're dealing with this situation, all you need to do is follow it to its conclusion, because they have the responsibility to prove that you violated fair use, legally speaking. Anyways, let me know what you think about it in the comments. This is a victory. You guys this means you're going to get to see the entire God's Not Dead 1 and 2 series. And guess what? I'm going to watch God's Not Dead 3 and God's Not Dead 4 as well on my channel. So be prepared for that, because these people now know that there's nothing they can do to stop me. Everything that I'm doing is perfectly within legal bounds. Anyway, yeah, let me know what you think about it in the comments. I'm going to keep going unless I end it here. So thanks for listening, and hopefully this helps some smaller creators.